Well, good morning. We are preparing for the cold weather front that's moving across North Florida. We used to think Blizzard Beach was a theme park in Orlando. It turns out that we may see some snow on our beaches throughout the Northwest Florida and even into Tallahassee and beyond. I want to thank Kevin Guthrie, the Florida Division of Emergency Management Director, for being here. We also have other members of the team that have been working really hard in anticipation for something that we're not used to seeing, but something that can have significant impacts on the region. We do expect to see a mix of snow, sleet, freezing rain, or any combination thereof throughout North Florida today and into Wednesday morning. I think you're probably already seeing stuff in Pensacola now. The conditions are going to deteriorate here in Tallahassee probably within the next couple of hours. We are expecting snow in many parts of North Florida. The forecast now is 2 to 4 inches. It's possible you could have localized accumulation of up to 6 inches. I've asked my guys to go back and look at the historical record, and we've never had 6 inches accumulate in Florida based on the information that we had. So that's something that would be very, very noteworthy. Ice is expected in North Florida, particularly in the northeastern part of Florida. Extreme cold warning has been issued across the far western panhandle for wind chill values as low as 5 degrees being possible. Cold weather advisories extend throughout North Florida for dangerously cold wind chills overnight Tuesday and into Wednesday morning. Winter storm warnings have been issued for the western Florida panhandle, with additional extensions eastward along the I-10 corridor in Duval County. Snowfall totals, as I mentioned, forecast between 2 to 4 inches, and we could break the Florida record. The weather is, of course, forecast to continue to worsen throughout the afternoon. Roads will ice before this time as the weather continues to cool, and so driving is one of the biggest hazards of cold weather. And I'll say a little bit more about that, but that's something that's really, really critical as we weather the next day and a half, 2 days. All non-essential state workers in the impacted areas are dismissed at 1 o'clock today. There are some state offices and counties in western Florida that have already closed or will be closing sooner. As of now, state offices in impacted areas will be closed tomorrow, Wednesday, January 22nd. Localities will make independent determinations about closures with respect to things that they have control over. So please listen to your local officials and your local emergency announcements. I don't have to tell anybody that we're not necessarily used to walking in a winter wonderland here in Florida. This is atypical weather for our region. Even northern Florida, which is traditionally cooler than southern Florida at this time of year, we are not used to seeing significant snow accumulation. Now, our infrastructure is designed differently than states that are used to this. I mean, if this were South Dakota, they would just shrug their shoulders. We are designed a little bit differently. Now, the state has done a lot to prepare, but I would say that you have the opportunity to just recognize that the road conditions, driving in icy conditions, can be very, very hazardous. And that's true anyways, but you also have Florida drivers, which, look, North Florida may not be the level of South Florida in terms of the driving, but when you are in these icy conditions, there's a lot that can go wrong. And if people have never driven in that before, it is just different driving in that. So we're advocating for people to stay off the roads if at all possible as these conditions continue to deteriorate. When we've had these freezes in the past, we have had some significant mishaps. I know 2012, 2018, that was before I was here, but there were some serious mishaps. Now, we have signed an executive order ahead of this anticipated weather. We are at a level 2 here at the State Emergency Operations Center. We're going to continue to work. Now, the Florida Department of Transportation has identified priority routes along I-10 and I-75 in North Florida. They've reviewed them for possible concerns like leaning trees, low electric lines. These are going to be priority corridors for pre-treatment and de-icing if necessary. FDOT did begin the pre-treatment of state-owned bridges, so over 600 bridges in the affected region for ice on Monday, and they have sprayed them for ice. They continue to renew the spray throughout the day between the rain events. Over 250 Florida Department of Transportation team members and nearly 200 pieces of heavy equipment stand ready to support with pre-stage items including de-icing chemicals, 11 snowplows, believe it or not, in the state of Florida. We're mobilizing snowplows. 120 truck spray rigs to distribute de-icing chemicals on roadways, 25 spreaders to distribute de-icing chemicals on roadways, generators standing by for traffic signals as needed, and other heavy equipment including skid steers, tractors, front-end loaders, and chainsaws. Efforts are being made to prevent freezing on movable bridges by warming gearboxes and ensuring the ability for additional bridge movements if needed during extreme cold. 40 heavy equipment items have been deployed from Central Florida to assist with operations across the northern part of the state. FDOT is working with Alabama and Georgia Department of Transportation to coordinate de-icing of shared bridges, particularly at state lines, to ensure safety and functionality. Rest areas and welcome center facilities have implemented winter weather plans and appropriate protocols to make sure those facilities remain functional. Way stations have increased staffing levels to ensure operations remain functional on our roads for commercial travel for as long as possible. FDOT Rangers have expanded overnight patrol service with a flexible approach to repositioning teams based on need across North Florida. Now, as of right now, all airports are open and operational. However, each airline determines cancellations for the flights that they are doing, and there have been cancellations that have already been issued, and we anticipate there likely will be more cancellations. And so if you're planning to fly into North Florida or fly out of over the next day, that could be something that the airlines will cancel. So just stay tuned on that, but anticipate that could happen. Several school districts across the Panhandle and Big Bend have also announced school closures in anticipation of dangerous weather conditions. For more information on school closures, go to fldoe.org/storminfo. Some counties are opening cold weather shelters. Now, it's possible you can have interruption in power. People should know that that's a possibility. I think Kevin will say a little bit more about it. We don't anticipate there being massive power outages on like a hurricane scale. I mean, we had 4.2 million without power at one point, cumulative for Milton. This would likely be a little bit more localized, but when you have freezing temperatures, you have problems with lines. Obviously, if the transmission is interrupted, you could have an interruption in service. So people should just be prepared for that. If you want to see if your county has a cold weather shelter open, go to floridadisaster.org/counties for updated information. Now, as for preparing yourself in your home, we are encouraging residents follow the 5 Ps of cold weather safety. These are not things most people in this state are probably familiar with, especially if you've never lived up north before. One is protect people. You wear multiple layers of clothing to keep warm, hats, gloves, scarves, thermal socks. Just assume that you may have an interruption of heat. If you don't have heat, then obviously that's going to be even more significant. Protect pets. If you are cold, they are cold. Bring your pets inside during cold weather or ensure they have proper shelter and warm bedding if kept outdoors. Protect pipes. Insulate water pipes in unheated areas and let faucets drip slightly to prevent freezing during cold spells. Protect plants. Bring your favorite plants indoors or cover them up with sheets or blankets so they don't freeze. Practice fire safety. Use space heaters safely. Don't use fuel-burning devices such as grills indoors. Now, I mentioned that we could have power outages. Resources are available. We're in contact with the utilities, both the investor-owned utilities as well as the co-ops. People are ready. If there is a need for more, we'll be able to facilitate that aid. I mean, similar to what we do during a hurricane, not the same pre-staging in terms of the massive numbers because we do anticipate it to be localized, but there are additional resources available if they need to mitigate power outages. So I would stress again, if you're in North Florida, you're going to see throughout today, we anticipate tomorrow whatever comes down is likely going to stick and stay throughout the day because we don't anticipate the temperature is getting warm enough to melt whatever is left behind. So you're likely looking at on Wednesday a snowy or icy day. Now, Jared Perdue and FDOT, they are going to be working on all state roads, bridges, and the 2 interstates. And they have salt, they have plows, they have things. They're going to work to get those roads open as soon as possible, or safe as soon as possible. Your local roads is really going to be dependent on what your county does or what your city does. So you need to listen to what they're doing. If they're not doing anything to clear it or mitigate it, then that's another reason to stay off of those local roads. And so for the rest of the day today and throughout tomorrow, it's not advised to go out and be on these roadways. We've got a lot of assets standing by for the state portion of this, and they will deploy those, and they would do a good job. But you are going to have a period of time where there's going to be hazards. So avoid any mishaps on the road. And I can tell you, as somebody that was born and raised in this state, that had never seen snow in this state, when you're in that environment and you're driving, if you're used to driving in Florida, it is different. When you do the brakes, there's all these things. You can skid, you can slide. So just be very, very careful. And if you don't need to be out, just stay indoors and let it all. And it'll get taken care of. It's gonna get a little bit warmer. I mean, it's still gonna be pretty cold, but it'll be warm enough eventually for all this stuff to melt away. So stay informed. Monitor weather alerts for cold weather warnings. You can follow Florida's State Emergency Management Response Team. Twitter is at FLSERT. We also have, of course, FloridaDisaster.org. I want to thank the folks on our team, Jared Perdue, Kevin Guthrie, other folks who, when we saw that this was coming, whenever they started having the news of it a week or two ago, said, all right, what's the deal? What do we have for salt? What do we have for this, all this? And you've seen a lot of resources mobilized. So I thank them for doing that. This is not typically the type of disaster or emergency situation that we're used to responding to. But because of that, we're taking it seriously. And as I said, if this were South Dakota or Minnesota, this is probably something that they're just used to all the time. Not something that we're used to having in the state of Florida. So we're taking appropriate precautions. Kevin?
Thank you, Governor. Picking up where the governor just left off, emergency management agencies were there to prepare. And as the governor said, over the last 10 days, we have been preparing. We're now in response phase, and that is getting resources out, deployed where they need to be, getting there ahead of this event arriving. And then as we move into tomorrow and on, we'll then be in that recovery phase. So we'll do, the Florida Division of Emergency Management is the best in the country at doing that, and the Florida State Emergency Response Team will assist us in getting that stuff done. Again, thank you, Governor, for your leadership and your constant dedication to helping support me get the team ready. I'd like to start by giving a few updates on the incoming cold weather. The governor has gone through a lot of these, but I'm going to go ahead and reiterate them. Yes, snow. Nobody would have ever thought that coming out of our voices, that we'd be preparing for a snow event, but here we are getting ready for that as it's becoming an increase likely across North Florida. On the map up here we have for you guys, wanted to make sure that we pointed out, if it's in pink, that's going to be the winter storm warnings. That's your snow and your wintry weather mix. And then you could see some things as far down as Central Florida, the I-40 or the State Road 40 corridor. We did not list county by county in this particular executive order, and the reason we did that is we knew that this was going to be a widespread event. We also knew that if we have to bring resources, those resources are obviously going to have to come from South Florida. So we wanted to make sure that the governor, the State Emergency Response Team, and myself had full access to the range of resources statewide to bring into this particular disaster. We've been conducting calls with all Florida counties. We've done several of those over the last couple of days. We have met with, as the governor's already mentioned, the independent-owned utilities as well as the Florida co-ops. I spoke with the executive director of the Florida co-ops this morning, Mike Borklin. I am concerned. You will see on some other graphics that we have, there is a significant possibility of receiving a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch of ice in areas that are serviced by Tri-County Electric, the Swanee River Valley Electric, Clay electric utilities. Those are co-ops, and we wanted to make sure that we are ready to assist them with whatever it is that they need. Most likely, as the governor mentioned, it's going to be isolated power outages, lines that have snapped. We will be able to backfeed power into some of those areas, but to get those lines back up and running, we do have crews ready and standing by to get that done. It's not 54,000. We don't need 54,000 for this evolution, but we do have crews that are standing by and ready. Roads will become icy and dangerous. There is not a may to that. They will become icy and dangerous. We want people, as the governor has mentioned, stay indoors. If you do not need to be on the road, do not be on the road. If you have to be on the road, make sure you're utilizing low speeds. Make sure that you know how to drive in these conditions. If you don't, it might be better just to walk. So please, please be careful. Keep up to date with your local weather forecast. Mobile, Alabama, National Weather Service, Tallahassee National Weather Service, Jacksonville National Weather Service will be your primary go-to locations for weather on this particular event, and then obviously your local weather stations. So please make sure you keep up to date with those local weather forecast watches and warnings. Some counties and schools have issued closures in preparation for the expected weather, and some cold weather shelters are opening in some counties. That is going to be a county by county, as it is in every single disaster. Sheltering is a function of county government. They will be the ones that will open those up. Please visit your local county emergency management website to determine if you have a cold weather shelter open in your county. Now, the state of Florida does stand by ready to assist if counties need assistance with those cold weather shelters. But again, that is a function of local government. Be sure to visit floridadisaster.org/counties for county-specific information. If you need that website, we have that listed on our website. As again, the governor has mentioned, the Florida Department of Transportation has been working for days and nights to get this ready. They worked, they had over 200 personnel that were working all night long last night, and still have hundreds of people out checking those bridges. For the latest on their information, again, 511.com is the best place to go and get that information, or the 511 app. So please make sure you're doing that. Again, as counties with cold weather sheltering should have information being prepared on their social channels and on their county websites. We retweet, we repost most of those counties. You can follow us at FLSERT, or again, follow your local county social media application for those things. Again, Governor, thank you so much for all you do for the Florida Division of Emergency Management and Florida State Emergency Response Team.
So, as Kevin said, just expect hazardous conditions. These conditions we're not used to in Florida. There's going to be a lot of people that have never been in conditions like this on the road. I can tell. I mean, I remember driving my pickup truck in Boston, Massachusetts, and like I'm in my 20s, and like you hit and you just skid, and it's like, okay, this is different, and you learn how to kind of do that. But if you're out there now thinking like you could just power through it, I mean, there will be accidents, and we don't want that to happen. It's avoidable. These guys are going to work very hard. I mean, I can tell you on the interstates and on the state roads and bridges, these guys, they've got massive resources. They're going to get after it. We're not just going to sit here and want things to close. I mean, some of these roads may be closed. I mean, you have to listen. FDOT will put out things. Local officials may put out things. Some of that stuff could happen. But let's just be smart and be safe. On the other hand, this is something, like I think about like my kids, this is something they'll remember 40 years from now. Like I was there when we got 5 inches of snow in northern Florida. And so it could be something that people go, they're safe, and then they have a memory about it. So it's possible. And if we set a record, people always remember winter of 2025, Florida hit 5 inches, or whatever the possibility is. It's not going to be sustained 5 or 6 inches, but it could hit that in certain areas. So that could be something that you look back fondly on, but only if you're making smart decisions and not pushing the envelope on the road. So thank you.
Any idea what time people should be off the road?
Excuse me?
Talk about the infrastructure challenges that you guys are facing.
Well, just as I mentioned, when we build infrastructure in Florida, it would be foolish for us to build it around snowstorms. This is not what we have. So our infrastructure is just geared differently than if we were in the Great Lakes region, let's say. That's fine. However, we've mobilized snowplows. We have salts for the roads. We're we can use some of our other heavy equipment in order to be able to clear the roads. And so this is something, we've been discussing this now for many days. This is something that you have seen a mobilization. We tend to work quick in Florida, and so we are putting a lot of resources to bear to make sure that these roads are safe as possible.
Has the state been helping the localities in trying to get some of this infrastructure? Like, I don't know if Tallahassee has plows or salts or whatever, using beet juice.
So, we learned a lot from the last set of snow events. We've learned a lot all the way going back to, I think it was 1989, when there was something that hit Jacksonville. We have been building capability and capacity over the last 2-3 decades. More recently, I think it was Jared Perdue was saying either 2014 or 2018 when we had to shut down the bridges over the Apalachicola and Chattahoochee rivers. We have taken steps this time to prevent that from happening. Not saying that we're not going to have temporary closures, but we are doing everything we can, and we have built that capability and capacity so that we have more snowplows. We did not have that back then. We did not have the pre-treat solution that we have on the roadways now. So we have learned a lot from that last situation, and we're ready to respond to that. Do I think we're ever going to get to a situation in Florida where we have hundreds of snowplows and all kind of de-icing equipment and things like that? No, I just don't necessarily think that that's a good investment in our infrastructure because we only deal with this once every so often. And when we do, just like it's going to be this situation, we're talking about 20 to 24 hours. So I think with taxpayer dollars, it's much smarter to have a more thought-out, smart, effective response. For example, we're pre-staging a strike team of rescue units on the other side of the Apalachicola River so that we can help beef up that ambulance response time if those fiscally constrained counties west of the Apalachicola River need them. We're doing things like that make smart investments as we respond to this particular incident.
Just keep in mind that whatever your locality has or doesn't have, I mean, those roads, we may have the state roads and the interstates cleared quick. It's possible, right? I don't know. We're not necessarily micromanaging everything they're doing to clear their roads, but just know that those roads could be hazardous, maybe even starting now in Pensacola area, but certainly throughout this afternoon. And then tomorrow, you are just going to have accumulation. There's going to be ice. There's going to be snow. We don't think it's going to be warm enough for that to really melt, so that'll be there. Now, our guys for FDOT are going to focus on the state bridges and state roads and the two major interstate thoroughfares, but be very cautious when you're going on some of these local roads because you don't know if they may not have been treated at all. They may not have done any plowing. They may not have done any salting. And yes, it's not like they should be stocking up on. I mean, your municipality or a county, you have limited budgets. You got to make decisions. For them to be stockpiling snow plows for a once-in-a-decade type thing, that's not the smartest thing to do. So it's not a failing at all on there. But it just may be the case that over the next 24 hours that some of those roads, may continue to have accumulation in excess of what some of the state is.
Any advice when people should plan to be off the roads?
Kevin, you want to?
Yeah. So the timing is going to vary, and I wish I had the slide up here in front of me right now to show you. But it obviously, as the governor just mentioned, we know that we have snow on the ground in Mobile, Alabama. That is happening. That's going to continue to work its way into the state. Most likely, as we're talking right now, we've probably got snow starting to fall in Pensacola, Escambia County. So it's going to progress all the way across the state. Much like when we have a hurricane, there's going to be front with this, and we will make decisions based on that. Again, we make decisions. We make the decisions on the government office closures for the state of Florida, but local counties will make those decisions on when they want people to stop driving in their areas based on that arrival of that wintry precipitation mix. So for this general area, National Weather Service Tallahassee is calling for somewhere between probably 3 and 5 tonight. So that's why the decision was made here in Tallahassee, for us to let individuals that are in state government go home at 1 o'clock today and get those people home, off the road, and safe. Then, as the situation gets better, what we're telling our staff, again, State Emergency Response Team will be here with personnel throughout this event. But as our staff feels safe to get back to the EOC based on conditions that they're synthesizing in real time, and I know this was mentioned yesterday. I'm going to go off topic here for just a second, Governor. I know yesterday the president said something about using common sense. Well, we want people to use common sense. about getting back to work. So we're going to ask for people to use their own common sense about if there's no ice on the road and conditions are safe to do so, then by all means, get back here to the EOC or get back here to your jobs. We're going to give our employees, we're going to give people that ability to use that common sense. So that's what we're asking people to do, but it'll be phased in. You will not see protective actions like you're seeing at 1 o'clock today at 1 o'clock in Jacksonville, Florida. That'll be probably later this afternoon into the early evening.
For Kevin Guthrie, actually, have you spoken to President Trump or his team about leading FEMA?
Well, I mean, look, if you're going to FEMA needs a lot of work. But if you're talking about emergency response, where would you go? You would come here to Kevin because, I mean, he's done it better than anyone. And so I don't know what they're going to do. But clearly we have a body of work here where major, major debilitating disasters are handled in ways that a lot of people didn't think were possible, even 10 years ago, and compare us with some other states on how some of this is done. And so Kevin has done very well on that. And I'm sure they'll make a decision shortly, but I don't think you could ask for anyone better. Now, I told them, I was like, I don't really want to lose you, but I want people to go on to do bigger and better things, and so that's totally good, and I'm very supportive of that. But just understand, if you get there, we are going to be hectoring you for change. We do not want to run the same playbook we've been running. Block grant us money, let us run with it. And I don't think anyone would appreciate that approach more than Kevin, because he's been here at the state level managing this stuff.
Growers, I know this is predominantly North Florida, but obviously there's still some concern out there for anybody who's in the sort of north central region.
Well, it's interesting because, there's more citrus north than there was 10 years ago. So they're going to probably get, I think, in kind of the central part of the state. I mean, I spoke with some of the folks down in Hillsborough County and like Plant City about that. I mean, they think it's probably going to be okay. They have a very good harvest this year. I mean, I'm going to the Strawberry Festival again. I think it's going to be really, really good. Now's the time to buy those strawberries. I mean, I think you're going to see some good stuff. So they're all just kind of bracing, but some of those folks in that region are still reeling from Milton to a certain extent. The strawberry guys are doing well. They've got great crop. But, that whacked a lot of people. So that's that. But I do think it's probably Central Florida. I don't think it's going to be sustained cold enough from what they're telling me to do interruptions. Things north, you can see differences. Is that you think that's accurate? Yeah.
Have you spoken to the Speaker or Senate President about special session now that the President's executive orders are out?
I anticipate doing that. I was up at the inauguration yesterday. We got back last night. We've been really working this issue now, and we're going to see it through. Obviously, I don't know if those guys are in town. They were scheduled to be, but because of the weather, so we're going to do. But clearly, I mean, man, if you look at those executive orders, I mean, there's a lot of really good ones, but the immigration, this is really, really strong. And the president came out of the gate very, very committed. And I've been saying this was going to happen because, I've been talking to him about it. We've been talking to their staff. So we knew that they were going to come out really strong. And now it's happened. President mentioned in his speech that, the states need to be on board here. I think you're going to see them go after sanctuary jurisdictions. I know that was in one of the orders, and hopefully in the budget process as well. But here in Florida, we lead in Florida. We don't wait. We don't wait to see what the political temperature is. We get out, we lead, we get the job done. We have an opportunity to make a difference on an issue that the voters have cared about really, really intently for a number of years. This is the time. How many Republicans have been elected running on the border and immigration excesses in the last 20 years? I mean, it's been like a perennial issue. So now we have an opportunity to make a real difference. We have a great roadmap, and we have a great series of proposals that we've been, and it's not just me working on that. There's huge numbers of people in the legislature that have embraced this over the years. Some of them are willing to speak publicly now. So now's a great opportunity. We have it. And then you look at some of the other things, the election integrity. If you had to say like the two issues that have animated at least the voters that sent us here as Republicans, I'd say immigration and election integrity. Those got to be two of the top three for sure. So we have an opportunity to remedy the fraud we saw with these petitions and make sure that is done. get that done right away. And then there's some other issues that I know a lot of Floridians have cared about, the fallout from the 2 hurricanes. We responded very quickly. I think the federal government under President Trump is going to be much better at block granting money so that we'll be able to distribute to farmers, all sorts of. But we have some stuff that we can do very easily, and a lot of people say that they want to do it. Why would you wait till July 1st for that money to be available? Wouldn't you just want to get it out now and get moving? That'll help the rebuilding. And then on these condos, I mean, look, there's a lot of people that are facing debilitating assessments. And we can sit here and say, well, you know, the condos have been mismanaged for decades. Yes, I understand that. But this is a legislative mandate that was put forward from Tallahassee that is causing. So can we give them peace of mind and reform this in a way that's not going to have those unintended consequences? I think we can. And so I'm ready to do that for sure. So we'll talk to them. But clearly, I don't think you could have a stronger mandate for action on the issue of immigration than what we have right now. And Florida leads. We don't wait. We don't wait for what other states are going to do. We'll get out there. We'll lead. We'll do what needs to be done to protect our people. And then you know what will happen? Other states will follow suit. That's what happens. That's what's happening. You know, it's interesting. You know, the Congress, they just passed, we're going to protect women's sports. They passed a bill through the House. And I'm thinking to myself, didn't we do that like 5 years ago? We did that years ago. You look at some of the stuff where they're going after the DEI and the woke and the executive orders. Great executive orders. We did that years ago where we were pioneering that. And we were doing it at a time when it wasn't as popular to do. Now it's kind of fallen out of favor. People are saying, you know, it's on the defensive. Back then it was on this surge. And we said no in Florida and really led the way on all that. So that's just how we roll here. And I know, because I know a lot of these guys in the legislature and have worked with them for years, they take pride in leading on these issues compared to other legislators. They don't go around saying we're going to wait to see what these other states do. They want to come out and do. And that's why you have people from other states that come visit Florida. People visit Kevin. Hey, how are you guys doing this? They'll visit Manny Diaz. How are you guys handling education? Tell us about that. They'll visit Jason Weed. How are you guys handling the healthcare stuff? How are you handling this? And they come and they look for the templates here in the state of Florida. So let's continue to lead. I think that we got to lead. I don't think we can be timid, and I don't think we can be passive.
Would you keep calling them back if they just did that special session snub where they gaveled in, gaveled out, didn't do anything?
I think you can view me as like a dog that's got you on the ankle on immigration. I am not just going to let go. We are going to get this done. And look, if they want to go on the record and actually vote down good proposals and then be held accountable by their constituents, that's one thing. But we are not just going to sit idly by. We are going to use every tool at the disposal to be able to get the job done. And, you know, the thing is, the legislature, or not the legislature, just the two leaders pointed out, you know, the governor can't pass legislation. Obviously, that's basic separation of powers. But I have constitutional authority to call them into session on these particular issues. They have a decision to make about how they want to handle that. We know how the voters want them. They want to get the job done. They want to make that happen. And so I think it's fine to kind of say, hey, the legislature, you know, we're not going to let the governor drive the train or all this other stuff. The problem, though, they have is they don't have a political mandate for that. They ran for election. How many people won a Republican primary in the last 6 years saying they were going to oppose the governor on the agenda? Zero did that. I can tell you because they asked for my picture to be in their literature. So they ran saying, we're going to support the governor's agenda. That's just the reality. So I have a responsibility to lead on these issues. I can't just sit idly by. The voters expect me to lead on these issues. And it's always easier in politics to just say, hey, well, I'm for it, but, the legislature's got to do it. If they don't do it, throw up your hands. We don't take that. We want to get the job done. So now's the time to act. I think that, and I don't, me, I don't really cite polls or really care about the up and down, but you see this poll that came out, 85% of Florida Republicans want action on immigration now. 9% were unsure, and I think it was only like 5% or 6% said, it can wait. So that is a huge, huge mandate to be able to get the job done. And it's not just like we're pulling this issue out of our hat. This is the central issue that has animated our voters for 4 years under Biden. President Trump coming in, as great as the executive orders were, the fact of the matter is this is like a hanging curveball with how bad Biden's done. I mean, of course you have to remedy this stuff. No one has thought that you could possibly sustain policy as bad as Biden did on the border, but yet that's what he did. So now's the time to act. I'm confident we're going to be able to get the job done. I know there's a bunch of different issues, but I would say in terms of the level of ripeness, I would say the immigration and the election integrity and petition security, that those are ripe. Those need to be tackled immediately, and we'll use all the authority that we have under the Florida Constitution to ensure we're doing the people's work. Thanks.
Attorney General appointment, any timeline?
My Attorney General appointment will be done when I'm confident we've gotten all the stuff we got floating around here done and on the right track, and then we'll go ahead and pull the trigger on that.